What's up, everybody? Decided to start up the stream early and just have a bit of a chat as the other guys come in, as I have done the last few weeks when we've done this. Derek's in the chat, says he's ready for win number 2. And this episode coming up is going to be a bit about how the season's gone so far. Not going to spend too much time on that. Mainly going to try and focus on questions if we can get loads of questions in there and just react to them or give our takes on them. But in my travels, I did find out that Football Outsiders has us with an estimated win total so far this year. Estimated wins of 2.7, which is pretty mad when you think about it. You know, we're 1.7 wins under expectation per their metric. That puts us 22nd in the NFL, and yet we're picking pretty high so far. Grandizer in the YouTube chat. How goes your day? Top of the evening to you, sir, as well. No, not one-man show. We're not recording yet. We would normally start at about past, but we've regularly started 10 minutes early just to have a bit of a chat before we crack on with the show proper. So I'm here just to say hi. C's in the chat. How you doing, man? VIP show. Yeah, very important persons. What a game last night. Haven't caught up with Dallas versus Philadelphia yet, but the Chiefs-Bills game, I know that I was on stream with Ant watching that, but oh my god, what a game. Oh, love it. Hey Dan, how you doing? And Depth Fan Man as well. Appreciate you guys joining early. If you do have any takes, any questions, any chat you want to get in, please do, because it's going to be a really good show if we can get as many takes in as we can. It's going to be a little bit on the season so far, but it's going to be limited. Ash is in the chat as well. How you doing, fella? And Ant, I think, is just coming in now, which is good. Are the Cowboys primed to lose to the Lions? Prime is a strong word. We'll talk more about the Cowboys game on Thursday in our preview show, and I'm going to try and get the UK Dallas Cowboys podcast to come on as well. It is a trap game. I think that it's going to be ripe for Dallas underestimating the Lions, but prime to lose? They're 7-point favourites for a reason. It's in Dallas. And the Lions are at a low ebb. I know we've had a lot of time to prep, but we'll see. I think we're better than the 7 points, but we will see. Cap Ice Cold in the building as well. How are you doing, man? And how you doing, Ant?
I'm not doing bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. Good day. You been up to much?
No, I watched the Lord of the Rings finale today, and then I sort of had a chilled out day after that, really. Had a late night watching. Well, I watched half the Eagles game, and then when I realized they were absolutely destroying them, I went to bed. So,
I've just realised I've not really prepped fully for the questions that are coming, so I probably should do that in the next 5 minutes. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So we've got a few questions already in that we're going to do towards the end of the show. Junie asking about offensive and defensive formations and what we like. All pro votes so far this season, and NFL awards so far this season, so interim awards. Brief look ahead to the free agency class for next year. And if we could delete one team in favour of an expansion team, who has to be set aside? If you want to ask any further questions, get them in. Would love to hear your thoughts. Ash has got a hot take. Robbie Anderson is not going to do anything much for the Cards and is likely done in the league after this season. That is a hot take.
oh, I don't know. God, I don't know. He's with a lot better quarterback, so maybe he'll do something. I mean, there was a reason the Panthers went out and got him because he was pretty decent with the Jets, but Murray's probably the best quarterback he's had to work with in his career, so you've got to kind of see how that works out.
Yeah, so the Cards trade was for a 6th and a 7th, a 23 6th and a 24 7th. I happen to think that the Cards have overpaid given that contract.
Giving away day three picks is never overpaying.
I just think you could have probably done a pick swap. I bet that Carolina were desperate to get any sort of cap hit off their books.
Well, will you find a receiver better than Robbie Anderson in the sixth or seventh round of next year's draft? Probably not. So it kind of is what you get, and Carolina have to take the brunt of the money this season. So you're kind of paying for a cheap rental almost, and then decide what you do with him when the season's done. So even if you do lose, you lose a sixth and a seventh round pick. It's not exactly the end of the world. So I
Yeah.
think it's low risk, medium reward for them. So you never know.
Grandizer, yeah, Hollywood Brown is done for the year, and to be honest, I think it's a big loss.
Marquise Goodwin, isn't it?
No, it's Marquise Brown.
What was it? I thought Marquise Goodwin. My bad.
No, the wide receiver they traded a first round pick for. That's why they're panicking.
Oh, they got both of them.
I don't know if they've got a good win. I have no idea.
Oh, it's Marquise Brown. Yeah, I get them mixed up.
If you just call him Hollywood Brown, then you have to worry about mixing them up. That's the way to go. Yeah, see, short week for Dallas is very true. They obviously come off Sunday night football to come into a 1 p.m. slot. I mean, it's not a huge short week, but a slight short week. And then obviously we've had almost 2 weeks to prep, or have had 2 weeks to prep.
It doesn't mean oh. I remember during COVID era, who was it? Someone came off a short week against us. It was a very short week as well. I think they had like 3 days to prep for us, and they still beat us. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether it's Cooper Rush and they're off a short week. Still doesn't really even out up for us.
So Dan in the chat has just said that the cards are only online for his base salary this year, Robbie Anderson. I know that they'll have to absorb next year's hit, but that's not bad for this year at least.
No, it's like I say, Carolina paid it all. They're on the hook for nearly 10 million the next 2 seasons for him now, and that's money that the Cardinals don't have to absorb. So you've kind of traded that sixth and seventh for cap relief, which is it kind of works. You trade your late round picks for cap relief, it helps.
Right, so in what are the awards that we do then? So we've got the All Pro, so we can just go position by position and try and pick out some people. Then we've got for the actual awards, it's MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and then Offensive Rookie and Defensive Rookie. Is that it?
Sounds right.
Okay, I'm gonna have to think about that. What else have we got? Brief look at the 2023 free agent class. Right, let's get Spot Rack up. My computer is going so slow that I really need to think about getting an upgrade because it's just getting untenable at the moment. It's quite frustrating. Oh, someone in our WhatsApp chat has just put the worst question I've ever seen anyone put. Ash, I don't know any executives, mate. I only know our executives. I couldn't tell you. Oh, maybe Joe Douglas. That's the one GM I can think of. I can't even remember. I'm awful with names as well. Right, I've got the free agents up, ranked by 2022 average contract amount. So that should be good enough for that. Steve is running 5 minutes late. We can just chat for 5 minutes. I'm under no pressure to start on time. You?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Looking forward to tonight's game.
No, I'm going to bed.
No one needs to see that Denver team.
I know I say it's a short season, so I don't mind doing all the late nighters there, but not for the Broncos. They're so fucking awful. It's unreal. I know they got all the primetime games before the season came out because everyone goes, "Oh, Russell's going to Denver and they're going to be amazing." But there should be like a fail-safe where if a team's rubbish, you can deprive them of their primetime privileges and just move fixtures around. 4 times this year through 6 weeks, they've got primetime, and it's like no one needs to see that shower again all year.
Cool down rats in the building as well. How you doing? Ash is proposing Howie Roseman as the GL executive of the year. It's going to be hard to look past that, to be honest. But Joe Douglas has done a hell of a job.
But we've never done execs before.
No,
I don't really care about other stuff. I'm not gonna lie.
I do if it affects us. So NFC North, but that's about it.
Well, 2 of them are brand new, so
I mean, the thing about the Bears is you still, if you're a Bears fan, you still hate where you are. Nothing about what's happened makes you confident about the future, but they're still overperforming their talent, which is a really horrible position to be in.
yeah, but you've got a 100 million tab for next season to spend on what you like. So
Well, that went so well for the Patriots a couple of years ago.
Jags this year, Jags look a really good team and they've invested very well. They had the most amount of free agency money last year.
Ah,
If you go all in on Justin Fields as your quarterback, like they have with Trevor Lawrence, then the money's there to fix them a lot quicker.
do you know if Ryan's on tonight?
I would assume so. He always comes in last minute if he does.
Yeah,
He said he might not be because he's prepping for. Oh no, that's other Ryan. I don't know about our Ryan. He does. He does. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
yeah, that's fair.
To be honest,
Ah.
I think a lot of people are fed up at the minute because of Lions Twitter being a toxic place at the minute. I think a lot of people want to chat stuff at the minute.
The thing is, all we have to do about Lions Twitter being a toxic place is be that shining beacon of light, which isn't over positive because it doesn't deserve that, but just treats everyone fairly, doesn't make anything personal, and when there is room for it, puts a positive spin on things. Doesn't mean you have to be positive all the time. There's room for negativity, but it just has to be fair and it has to be reasonable. And so much of it is so clickbaity bullshit or I don't know, just bitter.
Mm.
But when losing happens, things get bitter. But then I get really bitter about people then coming back and saying, "Oh well, the fans are like this. This fan base doesn't deserve a winning team." I saw someone say that in our chat, and I almost just went off on one, and I held myself back because the fan base doesn't deserve a winning team. It's like, have you met any other fans from any other fan base? You think that if by that metric that any fan base deserves a team that's worth winning? Like, sorry, you're holding the fans to an extremely high standard. Like, people get butthurt about stuff they care about. Like, I'm not going to flame people who are making it toxic because they care. They just care a bit too much and in the wrong way. But it's their fandom. I'm not going to tell them how to be a fan. I'm just going to try and be a better fan, you know?
Mm.
I can't stand that. Sorry, what about this fan base means that the fans don't deserve a winning team? Like, it's just a horrible way of putting things.
They just want success now. Like it doesn't come now. It takes time.
What's happening, Frog? And Cap says, have you guys noticed how many people are saying we failed the bye week?
Yeah, if you want to make one of those jokes that the Lions lose to the bye week, then I'm sorry, but it's stupid. It got boring a very long time ago. Oh look, we lost to the bye week. We can't beat the bye. Well, come up with something new. It just pisses me off. I'm just like, if you want to talk shit about the team, then just do it. But come up
Yeah.
with crap like that.
Grandizer, what I mean about being a better fan isn't like about the quality of your fandom. It's about not making life worse for other fans. I'm not about to tell anyone how to express their fandom. It's not for me to say that the way you do it is worse than the way I do it. What I mean is that I always want to come away. This goes for with my friends. It goes for where I work or anything like that. I want people to come away saying my life is being enhanced by interactions with this person. Like, if you can do that, you've led a fucking good life, a really good life. And if you're pulling other people down, that's not great. But lots of people wrap themselves up in their own pity, well, especially when it comes to sport, and just kind of drag people down with them. And I just don't like that. But yeah, anyway. Cap says exactly. Why can't we just get through the season and get better? Why kick the team when they aren't 100%?
The thing, you've got to give them the full season. I had someone on Twitter today saying you should expect better of your franchise. Been trying, but it's like, well, I do. I've been very, I've been very critical about this 1-4 start. It ain't good enough. And if it carries on in this vein and we carry on getting shut out and playing bad, then heads need to roll when the season's done. I'm at least going to wait till the end of the season to make that judgment. I ain't going to start throwing away everything that we've done here just because a couple of other teams are winning games. Oh, the Jets are winning games. Oh, the Giants are winning games. Oh, well, the Browns won some games a few years ago, and we all wanted to be the Browns. Do we want to be those Browns now? You bet your bottom dollar we don't. I don't want to be them. What, am I going to give that all up for one season because they did all right? But they've not built sustainable success. So it's all about building sustainable success. The Browns have one good year and then have just regressed year on year. And now they've got a situation where, it's not exactly the most savory. And I would take our team ahead of theirs every day of the week because, we will build towards more sustainable success. They were a flash in the pan. So be careful what you wish for because the Giants and the Jets might be a flash in the pan and then they might be bad again because, especially the Jets, it happens. So you're going to throw it all away just because they've won a few games. Like, just stick with your team and how it's building.
I think the really impressive thing about the Jets so far is that before the season started and during the first couple of weeks, they had some devastating injuries, especially with their tackles. I think they're down to their third and fourth string left and right tackle, and they're now getting people back healthy again. But they've been doing their winning while they've been hurt, which is obviously something we've not been able to do. Like, if anything, the Jets should get stronger down the stretch. Now, luck plays a factor, and momentum's a real thing. They could get one loss and they could continue to stack them after that. So remains to be seen. But so far, the Jets are the one that have impressed me the most, really.
They're well coached.
Really well coached, yeah.
Salah's a very good defensive coach, and you can tell that with his defense there. They've invested a few picks in it. They've got some good guys in there. They're getting the best out of Quinn and Williams after he seems to have been dreadfully misused. But he's got the defense playing well. And then on offense, you can see some of the stuff he's picked up from Shanahan, some of the running plays they do, the sort of misdirection, the trickery. That's exactly out of Kyle Shanahan's playbook. So he's kind of brought that with him as well. So the offense, while maybe injured and down to its bare bones, is unpredictable. And that unpredictability can, make up for lack of talent if an opposition defense don't know what you're doing.
The other
So
thing
that's what's
about,
going well with them. But
I mean,
again,
what's miraculous though about the Jets as well, just from yesterday, is that long Breece Hall touchdown. That wasn't a Breece Hall run by play call. Breece Hall apparently called an audible, and he was meant to run a reverse to someone else, and he saw the gap and didn't hand it off and just ran with it himself for a touchdown. Like, it's the sort of thing that if Matt Patricia saw you doing it, you'd get benched the next week even though you scored. But it's just the fact that members of their team are making these heads-up plays where even the quarterback doesn't know what's happening and he goes and scores a touchdown. It's mental. It's absolutely crazy.
yeah.
How you doing, Steve?
Are we talking about the Packers losing? This is perfect timing to come in.
Oh yeah, well we're starting off on a happy note this week, so we're talking Packers special teams. That's the biggest laugh of them all.
We haven't even started recording yet, so we've just been chatting.
Sorry, there was an accident on the motorway on the way home, so it took me a bit longer than usual.
A bigger crash than the Packers special teams.
Not quite, but as many blocks. They were fucking awful.
Yeah. Can we start with that today? Can we start with the Packers special? Let's spread some positivity
Yeah,
around.
okay, I'll start with that after the news. There's only 2 bits of news and there's nothing to discuss. So I'll just say that and then start with the Packers. Right. Steve, you have some chat in YouTube if you have that up. I don't know if you do. Judderman says FTP. That is the way we're going to start the show. Right, I'm going to hit record if you guys are ready to go.
Yep, I'm just to get YouTube up. Yep, I'm all good.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 149, The Bi-City Rollers. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside co-hosts Steve and Ant. How are you doing, boys?
That's not mine, Steve. I apologise.
I mean, considering it's a bye week and he's had all week to come up with that was particularly poor.
No,
Ash.
he's letting Ash make suggestions. So, well, yeah, by technicality, it is Matt's fault. So,
well, so you made the bye and sync comment, but the
I
thing is,
that was not an NSYNC comment. It was just bye to the bye. I had no idea it was an NSYNC thing until Ash mentioned
baby,
it.
bye.
I have considered deleting the tweet when I read that. So
okay,
like, right.
So that is the joke I made by week last year.
All I'm going to say is if you're looking for quality control, don't let an Aston Villa fan pick your bylines.
Wow. Ant is getting the shade already. Welcome to the Royal Alliance
Why
podcast.
is there some NSYNC fans in the building?
Oh, dear Lord, no. I don't mind a bit of JT, but yes, episode 149, it's been the bye week, and this week we're going to briefly look at the quarter season review, have a look at how we've done so far, not going to dwell on that point if I'm quite honest. And then it's an open forum. The guys that are live in the chats right now, whether that is on our Discord channel, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube, you can get your questions in, and it's going to form the show. We've already got some in advance, but we'll take some live, and it's going to form part of what we talk about right now. Let's get on with some housekeeping to begin with. I mentioned that Discord channel. If you want to get involved with Discord, we've got a lovely community of people growing all the time through the season. It's really fun. Ask us for a link. We'll send it over to you. College Football Podcast is coming up, and Ant, what a terrific weekend in college football. It was a mock with terrific games.
Yeah, I've no idea when it's going to be, so there will probably be a very late announcement as to when it's going to be, because it'll be very last second, because I'm at work all week. But yeah, in terms of the action itself, I was up till 5 a.m. on technically Sunday morning watching. I watched the Tennessee-Alabama game, then the Clemson-Florida State game, then finished off with Utah and UCLA. It was one of the best slates of games I've ever watched in college football before. So yeah, I think at least half of the remaining unbeaten teams were defeated, loads of ranked teams lost, all sorts is going on at the minute. So yeah, going to be good fun. And me and Ryan will also be doing our half-season mock drafts because we're at the halfway point now. So we did this last year. We do a mock draft based on the positions where we are at this moment in time. And then when it gets to the end of the season, we review them, see whether we take the same players or whether we take some different guys. So yeah, there will be a lot to tune into this week, and I will get the announcement out when it's going to be as soon as I can. Like I say, I'm working around work at the minute, so it could be any time.
Do watch out for that, though, because it's going to be a really good one. I've not seen a better game of college football than Alabama-Tennessee in some time. You want to give that a look if you haven't given that a look. Please don't forget.
I've not seen celebrations like that since Liverpool drew 2-2 with Crystal Palace. It was quite a something.
Anyway, please don't forget to like the episode, sub to the show, give us a comment down below, all that good stuff. You know it helps with the algorithm. Every content creator goes on about it. It really does make a difference, so if you can, much appreciated. And don't forget to download the app at Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content all in one place. That is lionsnationunite.com. We're there, Micro Mike's there, Doze and Detroit Lions on the Prowl, all of those guys, along with Herman himself, of course. And we are a Twitch affiliate. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, whether you know it or not, you do have a free Twitch Prime sub to use every single month. It takes a little bit of money from your subscription going to Amazon, instead puts it in our pocket. So much appreciated if you can do that. A little bit of news, only 2 pieces, not going to discuss it, just going to say it just to get it out of the way. Since we were with you last, Maurice Alexander, the wide receiver and kick returner, he was waived from the main roster and then re-signed to the practice squad. And we have signed kicker Sam Fick into the practice squad to compete with Michael Badgley for the starting spot. But to be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if our starting kicker on Sunday is someone completely different altogether. Right. We are going to start the show at some point with a quarter season review, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we've done and who's done well and who hasn't. Maybe a bit of emphasis on who hasn't rather than who has. And then we're going to go into your questions. But we're going to start with the Green Bay Packers because we need some positivity on this show. And Steve, I know you have particularly strong takes on this. The Packers go down to one of the best Jets teams we've seen in some years. What did you think?
I mean, the funny thing, which obviously, we have to take our laughs where we can. And the funny thing about the Packers is it really is like a broken record because their special teams have been like absolutely god awful for I don't know how long. And they've been a constant source of amusement. And then they got a new guy in that was meant to be the special teams ace. And they just look as bad, if not worse than they've ever been before in terms of special teams. So obviously that's pretty funny. I saw that Packers Twitter on Sunday, the first 5 or 10 minutes was basically full of Zach Wilson's mom jokes. And very quickly that dried up and the self-flagellation began and they started, ripping into. I mean, I think that the new offensive coordinator has taken a lot of heat, but, it's almost as though they're just trying to depend completely on Rodgers for everything. So there were several critical situations and they're just running like 3 or 4 verts and that's it. There's nothing else. And Rodgers, I'm not going to prematurely bury Rodgers because we've all seen this blow up in our faces before. But he doesn't quite look as sharp as he has for the last couple of seasons. I mean, he never bothers doing any, pre-season, and he's always like rusty in the first games. But we're now in week 6, and he doesn't look great. So, bring on Jordan Love season.
Oh yeah, they look awful, but it was funny to see yesterday. Just flop punts and that twice by the same player. Just all these big errors they make. I know we can't really laugh because we are where we are, but I thought they were going to be better this year. I know the receiver issue was a thing for them, but I thought they'd sorted all the other holes in that team. But there just seems to be a very steep regression in there at the minute, and Rodgers looks like he's finally had enough. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last season at the rate he's going. But
what did you make of their rookies on defense, Ant? Because I know you were all over the draft and their defensive choices, and it seemed to be getting a positive reception in terms of what they'd done on defense with high investment in rookies. But Twitter, Packers Twitter was full of slagging Key Walker and saying how bad he was, and the defense just doesn't seem to be as feared as they thought it was going to be this year.
No, I mean, I never liked the Walker pick because I never liked Walker. He was always a high ceiling, low floor guy. I loved the Wyatt pick. I thought that would work out a lot better with Kenny Clark on the offensive line. I mean, Rashawn Gary's been doing that well that they got rid of Zadarius Smith. You thought it would be good, but I think teams are just figuring out ways to get at them. I think the secondary's had injuries, which hasn't helped. Jair's been out for a while. I think Amos has been out for a while. And, the linebackers have just been poor again. Devondre Campbell's not done much. They gave him the deal. I thought that'd be like the thing for them. They sorted it, but the linebacking caused an issue for them again. And Kenny Clark seems to be on his own again. So it's concerning. And at the same time, it's like it gives me hope that our offense can do a lot against them because, we've technically got a more high octane offense than the Jets do. And, if the Jets can find a way through it, then we sure as hell can find a way through it in a few weeks' time. And they just seem on a slump in the minute. Usually they wake up after that week 1, but it still looks like they haven't woken up properly yet. And will they? Who knows?
Sorry, I'm just getting all of my picks together for later on in the show when we've got to pick our players of the year so far. What were we saying just then?
We were just talking about the Packers, but I mean, I think one thing that's inevitable is, I've been following the kind of Dak Prescott injury stuff over the last few weeks, and it was just inevitable that Prescott's going to be back to play us in week 7. I think Tua's been out, but it's inevitable he's going to be back for week 8. And you almost kind of think it's inevitable that the Packers will get their shit together by week 9 when they play us.
To be honest, Steve, I don't think it really matters because, we got tore apart by Geno Smith and Bailey Zappi. So, they're career backups. We seem to play better against starters than we do career backups and CFL level quarterbacks. So it's probably actually going to be a good thing with Dak's back. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. Whoever lines up under center, we've got to give them a lot harder time. Dak's injured, so they should be sending out squads of guys after him to try and lay hits on him early and get him back out the game again and make life uncomfortable for him. But we all know they won't.
Yeah.
Right, let's get on with the show proper, and we will talk about the quarter season reviews. So the Lions 1-4, last in the North at the moment. The games: 38-35 loss against the Eagles, 36-27 win against Washington, 28-24 loss against Minnesota, 48-45 loss against Seattle, and 29-0 in the most recent game in New England. PFF grade of 64.3 overall, offense 69.8, and a defense 50.1, which is not exactly the best. DVOA overall, they are 25th with an expected win total of 2.7, so 1.7 under expectation. Statistical leaders: Goff at the quarterback, 111 of 186 for 1,355 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions with a passer rating of 92.9. Jamal Williams, rushing leader, 77 carries for 332 yards and 6 touchdowns at 4.3 per clip. DeAndre Swift has almost a third as many touches, 27 carries for 231 yards and a touchdown, but he's going at 8.6 yards per carry. Receiving leaders: Josh Reynolds, 23 of 34 for 335 and 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 27 of 39, 271 and 3 touchdowns. And Hockenson, 19 of 34 for 267 and 3 touchdowns. So lots of people with not very many yards there. On defense, Alex Anzalone leads in tackles jointly with Deshaun Elliott, 40 apiece. 29 solo for Anzalone with a sack and 3 passes defended, and Elliott 33 solo tackles, 1 pass defended and 1 interception. The other guys in that defense: Malcolm Rodriguez, 39 tackles, so just 1 less than those two, with 30 solo and a forced fumble, and Hutchinson, 14 tackles, 9 solo and 3 sacks, all coming in that one game. So there's your stats so far for this season. Looking at PFF grades, you are leading with, on offense, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 79, Penei Sewell at 77, Josh Reynolds at 74, Jamal Williams at 71. Taking up the rear on the offense, Logan Stenberg at 34 feels very unfair. Otherwise, Dan Skipper 45, Matt Nelson 45, Shane Zylstra 47, James Mitchell 47, Justin Jackson 51, and there are plenty of others coming in under average. On the defense, leading the way is Chris Board, not too many snaps, 76 only, but 76 overall grade. Tracy Walker, before he was done for the year, finished with a 74 grade. And fourth is Kirby Joseph with 71, rounding out the top 6, shall we say. John Kaminsky 69 and Malcolm Rodriguez at 68.6. And at the bottom for the defense, Amani Oruwariye at 27.7 is atrocious. Demetrius Taylor, who's only had 13 sacks, so it feels very unfair to rate him second last at 29.6, and Chase Lucas 29.8, and then Derek Barnes 36.6. So there's your high and your low guys per PFF. But let's move away from the stats and talk about how it feels. The season got off to a reasonable start, I think. We took the only undefeated team in the Philadelphia Eagles to a 3-point game, and I didn't feel like we were blown away like we had been in previous encounters with that team. And then we utterly dominated a Washington team. I have to tell you that by week 2, I was pretty bullish about this team, and the last 3 games have just flipped it all on its head for me, and it started with snatching defeat from the jaws of victory against Minnesota. How are you feeling on the season so far, boys?
I mean, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I think, I think the first game of any NFL season is always a bit of a coin flip. And maybe we were lucky to get the week one Eagles because, I think the Eagles are the only 5-0 or 6-0 team now. And they've just been crushing the opposition, playing really well. And maybe we caught them when they weren't quite warmed up. And probably in hindsight, the Commanders are probably one of the worst three teams in the NFL. Some minor upside in terms of Malcolm Rodriguez's performance. But overall, the defense has just, for me, has regressed from piss poor last year. So come
long time to go, but it's concerning the lack of player development you see. And I mean, you see in little bits, the offense looks really good in spurts, but that doesn't help next year because you've got the contract situation coming up with TJ. You're going to have the discussion about Goff. You're going to have the discussion about DeAndre Swift and his health. This offense could look a lot different next year. So it's playing all right now, but that means nothing for the future of the franchise going forward. So, it's kind of, you want to see your players on there doing better. The defense, like Steve says, has been awful. The vets have been awful, should I say. The younger players are playing well in a very difficult circumstances. Malcolm Rodriguez has come in and completely overperformed his expectations. Aleem's doing relatively well on the interior with precious little help, but your main guys, Brockers, Anzalone, Amani, they're just flat out disappointed, and your team can't develop if you ain't got good vets in there. And we don't have good vets in there. So, it's concerning because we've got a tough run of games coming up now. You've got Dallas, you've got the Dolphins, you've got the Bills coming up as well. You take a few poundings in that as a young team, and then all of a sudden you're 1-7, you're 1-8, and we're right back to where we were last year. And you're not seeing the tangible progress forward as a team. So like I say, at the minute, I feel nothing. It was a case of I wanted to see this team get better this year. Didn't necessarily have to be wins, but it's not really getting better. Like I said, the offense has been good, but where was it last week? It did nothing. And, the defense actually did a little bit last week. And these two sides of the ball have got to come together and put forward complete games. They nearly did it against Washington when we won. It was nearly a complete game, but for that third quarter on the defense, it's annoying more than anything because I feel like we've had an opportunity to make statements this year and we've just shown we're not good enough yet. And I think we're going to have to wait a little longer than we anticipated. So,
and I think that's a really good point, and that it didn't start against Minnesota. It started in the third quarter against Washington in terms of we got absolutely smoked by Carson Wentz in that third quarter. The defense got absolutely smoked. And, it was only because the offense was playing really well in that game that we were able to close it out. But that was week 2. And that should have been a worrying sign because that Commanders offense, as anyone who had the misfortune like me and Ant of sitting through Thursday night football last week and watching the Commanders against the Bears, they're a fucking terrible offensive unit. And the fact that they so easily carved through us in that third quarter should have been a massive wake-up call.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's just a bit of disappointment at the minute. We've had opportunities and we've not taken them. And you look at teams around, and I'm not one of those who's saying we could have had Dayball, we could have had Seller, screw that to one side. But I'm seeing other sides in circumstances taking these opportunities, and it's kind of just frustrating that we're not able to do so because it's been a long time in coming, us doing this. And yeah, like I say, I think I'm not so sure it's an issue of coaching, but I think it's an issue of confidence, and the buyers come at the exact right time. Because like I say, since you lost that Minnesota game, the confidence has gone. So, you need to regroup, you need to have another go at it again and try and reestablish the confidence the players are playing with. Because initially on, they were. After that Washington game, I think they truly believed in it. At least the offense did. But, then the Seahawks game kind of ruined the defense's confidence. And then, the Patriots game kind of ruined the offense's confidence. So, I don't know. It's still a very, I don't know. In terms of where blame lies and that, I still don't really know. I'm not going to chuck coaching under the bush yet. I still think Campbell's the guy. But it doesn't help when he's making a lot of boneheaded decisions at this moment in time as well. But the fourth down stuff has got to stop. You've got to start trusting your special teams a bit more, and conversely, start trusting your defense, because the amount of times you go for it on fourth down, especially in your own half, you've got one of the league's best weapons in Jack Fox there, designed to put other teams in horrible situations on offense for you to take advantage of. And in doing all these fourth down drives and everything, because you're behind all the time, you are conversely telling your punter and your defense that you don't believe in them. And so what's that going to do for them? No wonder the defense come out and play like they do if they know the head coach has no faith in them to make a stop. I mean, especially in that last game, it was apparent. There were a lot of times we should have punted the ball. And the fourth down stuff grew old last year. We had a really, really bad team last year, and we could kind of excuse it because we were on a hide into nothing anyhow. So go for it. Be brave, be adventurous, see what players can step up and do it. But this year, you've got to be a bit more smart when it comes to those decisions. Can't just keep doing it all the time. Like I say, use one of your few elite players to put yourself in favorable situations. You add that to some of the players underperforming and that, and it all creates this scenario where it all goes a little bit wrong. So, I mean, how do you fix it? I don't really know. I think, hopefully getting players back is going to help, because that defensive line needs reinforcements, and it needs them tomorrow. It needs its second round picks back and playing. I think we need JMO again now, because I think the offense will need him. That's the whole point of having him here. Stretch the field, take two men out the equation, make mismatches elsewhere. It's what we drafted him for. He seems to be close and coming back to it, and it'll just make that offense a little bit more versatile again. Hopefully get them back in stride. It was well needed, this was, but yeah, I think it's just a bit of disappointment so far, but I still believe in the regime.
Just a bit of breaking news from Ash, because Dan Campbell is speaking right now at the podium. He says that Levi Onwuzurike is done for the year.
Bye-bye, Levi.
Oh dear.
Sack him off. I don't care if he's only in his second year as a rookie. Injuries, zero tolerance policy now. Sack him off now. Get rid of him. Be done.
I mean, I just wonder what's happened to make him suddenly done for the year. He wasn't making any progress.
A back injury's no good for a DT.
No, absolutely. That sucks. But my question is, if the back injury was so bad, why not put him on IR, open up a roster spot for someone else, leave him time to recover? They must have thought that it was borderline to keep him on the roster, deprive someone else of their roster spot, and give him a chance to get healthy quickly, because he might be back next week. That's what keeping him off IR says. He could be back next week, it might be 2, and, whatever. I know it's a back injury, so it's kind of hard to predict, but to go from that to he's done for the year seems very...
Or maybe they've just seen enough from Kaminsky to go, you know what, we can get by without chancing him.
But you could just put him on IR, for 4 weeks, all the rest of the year, but you don't have to shut him down. That's...
No, but I think you're in a case where if you think there's a possibility, like maybe, because they said with Ragnar last year, he could have played last year, but they chose not to because we weren't really in a situation where he needed him to. Maybe Campbell's thinking, hang on, we've got a lot of injuries on this D-line. Maybe we're going to need him, especially if we win a few games and we're looking positive. Maybe we might need him and he can contribute to us. But now we're at the point, you're 1-4. Let's say Kaminsky's come in and done a decent job. So he'll be back, should be, by the end of the bye, given his timeline for recovery. Maybe they've just done, you know what? It really isn't worth it. These guys can come in and do a job. We'll just shut them down and we'll try and get it right, whatever it is. But like I said, I wouldn't be giving him another chance. Just flat out. I don't care about the rookie contract. You just get rid of these injured players off your team. That's 2 years now that he's just been shut down and he's not contributing to us for. And I'm sorry, but you've got to be harsh now when it comes to these guys.
So apparently, I've just picked up a bit of this on Twitter. So he underwent back surgery last week, and apparently the back surgery was a last resort to try and like sort the problem, because he wasn't responding to any other treatment. It's the same injury he had since last season, but so this was like the last chance saloon this surgery. So, that's what's obviously is what's up with that.
So I've just seen what you said, Drew. Who else have I given up after 2 years? Nobody.
Well,
I don't believe I've given up on anybody else.
We didn't. So that the players who you could have given up on after 2 years are precisely two, and they're both linebackers, and they're two people we didn't give up on, which is Jared Davis and Jelani Tavai, and plenty of other people did by that point. But and we may have been fools for sticking by them, but both of us stood by those guys for probably longer than we should, to be honest.
Pretty sure I've not given up on Barnes either after 2 years. Pretty sure I've seen what I can see there from him. This is entirely injury related. I'm at a point, it doesn't matter how many years you're here. This is just coincidence he's been here 2 years. It's the same with Romeo. I'm done with Romeo. I'm done with waiting for him to try to be fit. This team can't afford it anymore. How much money did we have on IR last year? How much money have we got on IR this year? Because we've stuck by players who do not have a track record of staying healthy for us. And I'm sorry, it's a 100% policy. It doesn't matter whether you're a 2-year rookie or a 7-year vet. If you have an injury history like that over the last few years and you've contributed precious little to us over a 2-year period, that is more than fair. More than fair. And I love Levi. You see when we did the tape on him the year before last, I loved the pick. I loved the guy. I think there's a lot of potential there with him, and I would love nothing more than to see a fit Levi Onwuzurike on this team contributing, because I think he could be a great player for us. But I have my limits now. I'm not sitting around like the Sean Hands waiting for 4 years for someone to try and get fit and be good for us. I'm not doing that again. So I'm sorry, but it ain't happening.
Ash also says from that press conference, apparently John Kaminsky is in potential to come back this weekend, which would be massive, I think, for us.
It'd be good for depth on the D-line. So.
More on this and the Cowboys on our Thursday show, but getting back to what has happened and what we need to do to get better generally, I couldn't agree more with what Ant was saying.
Whoa, hang on one sec. Drew, I have not given up on Akuda. Stop putting words out there that I have not said. I have been through with him this year. Start from the beginning. He got injured 2 years, and I said if he come back and he was injured again this year, I'd have problems. He's come back and he's been healthy, and I backed him a lot. So stop putting words out there that don't exist.
Apologies.
Yeah, I think on this podcast we absolutely did not write off Jeff Okudah. Maybe Ryan mid rant, but
I'm going to keep starting.
Absolutely, I didn't.
I'm going to start keeping sound bites now, keeping records of this. I will admit when I'm wrong, but I've backed Jeff all the way through that.
Just to put this in here, apologies to anyone if the stream is buffering. For the audio version, it won't be a problem because I'm recording it locally. But anyone who's listening can see buffering. I apologise. There's a bit of a storm here at the moment, and that might be affecting the channel. So do bear with, and it should sort itself out. Let's get back on track and not talk about what Drew is derailing you with, because it's not worth it. Let's get back on track and talk about you were talking about trust, Anne, and I think it's one of the most important things that are out there. At the end of the day, I want this team to live by the sword and die by the sword. And the thing is, it's fine for teams that think they're going to win and go all the way. Trying to master efficiencies is kind of par for the course. But where we're at, I don't want to compromise the integrity of the team by trying to paper over one gap with an area that's already not that great and trying to struggle to survive by itself. So trying to paper over the fact that this DB group is now a bit banged up and not that great by rushing too many people and blitzing too often, especially on 3rd and long, doing, cover zero too often and too predictably. Not a great idea. We saw us get absolutely smashed by Seattle in that process. And it's because we're trying to paper over our cracks. Now, if our DBs aren't good enough, and the other team throws and beats our DBs, then we can just shrug our shoulders and say, well, okay, but fine, we knew that they weren't great. But to allow teams to beat us more easily by trying to mask our weaknesses just isn't good. Let's allow the people on our team who are actually good, or could be good, the chance to do their role well without having to cover for other people. Like, trust your DBs that they will learn to get the job done, and believe in this team that they can win. You've got to act like winners. At the moment, we're trying to not lose games, and it is achieving exactly what we're trying to avoid.
It's just been a switch. I mean, last year we tried not to lose by being too conservative. This time they've done it by being, like I said, a bit too aggressive. You've got to find the balance. You've got to keep people guessing. Like what we said with the Jets offense yesterday, it might not be the greatest in the world. You know, they're dealing with injuries and it's not the deepest roster or whatever, but they kept the Packers guessing by mixing everything up on the offense, and it kind of helps for that. I mean, we kind of got to do that with our defense. Keep giving different looks, different schemes, you know, keep other offenses guessing. It gives us at least half a chance to do something then. When opposition players are saying they're walking up to the line of scrimmage and they know what we're doing and they're shutting us out, then it's kind of really disconcerting. So you've got to mix up the play call, but you've got to do something a bit different. But we do need players back. I'm not going to lie, we do need players, and you know it. With the lack of veterans on this team, it's shown that we need to bring people in as well. This is not just a case of all the injured players are going to come back and it's going to be better. It's a case of we've got a lot of people hanging on here and we need to get rid of them, you know, in the veteran groups. And we need to start finding talent to bring in. That's why I've been a big proponent of looking in the trade market and trying to bring people in, because drafts ain't going to fix this defense. They're just not. It will help it get better, but it ain't going to fix it until you've got the right balance of talented youth and talented players who have done it in the NFL, who lead by example and play like seasoned veterans and earn their paychecks. The defense is not going to be good. So, you know, we have to get the balance right. And, you know, hopefully Holmes is scouring and looking around and seeing if the right deal is there for this team. They should be players, despite what everyone will go on about. They should be looking, you know, Brees, what's his face from the Jets went up today. You know, you should be looking at him for next year. Was it? I keep saying Brees, like Bryce Hall went up today. So have an ask. See what the price is. The price is reasonable. He's got 2 years of a rookie deal left. You can cut him for nothing next year if he doesn't work out. It's low risk, high reward. Get some players in, and you know, get someone with experience who knows what they're doing. And let's see if we can fix this just a little bit quicker than having to rely on another 2 or 3 drafts waiting for it to happen. You know, it's that is apparent. That is abundantly clear now. I mean, if it wasn't before, it's you can't fix this defense to a draft alone. And you know, at least it's good that the team knows that now.
Just to catch everyone up on the press conference that's happening at the moment, apparently the plan is for Romeo Okwara still to play at some point this year. Jason Kabinda isn't going to practice this week, but it is coming soon. Kaminsky, as I said earlier, looks promising to play on Sunday. Josh Pascal and Jerry Jacobs are also trending in the right direction. And about it being a last resort for Levi, he said, saw a number of doctors, we'll see where it goes, but it's where they felt they needed to go with it. And Jeff Risdon comments that is not promising at all. Dan Campbell shied away from talking about any possible return after this year as well. So it could be a career ender for Levi at this point, and they know it.
If you go and see a lot of doctors, it means you don't like what the first couple of doctors told you.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so
I mean,
sad.
yeah. At this point, you just got to hope that he's going to be healthy in his life. The guy signed a contract, has been paid a few $1 million. That's probably enough to keep him comfortable. And let's not worry too much about whether he's going to come back and play for this team, and just pray for his health, full stop.
That's it. You know, that's the way I'd say. But yeah, you do have to send your best wishes out to him. You don't want to see any player be injured like that. So it's just, again, it's just frustrating for people, because it's like, you know, when he's healthy, how good of a player he can be, and these things happen, and it kind of halts you in your tracks. Especially such a vital position for us. we can't afford to lose him without ever really having him, and it just makes things that little bit longer. So,
Yeah.
but hopefully he gets his back right, whatever happens.
Fingers crossed. Just to interject here with a comment about the rest of the show. So at some point we're going to bring this to a close, and then we're just going to launch into listener questions and whatever the other guys want to bring to the table here as well. Steve and Ant, if they've got anything to talk about, it's going to be open forum for the rest of the show. So if you guys do have any questions, please get them in. If you can, at Roar of the Lions in the live chat, I'll be able to see it, so I'll be able to put it into the show. And someone's commenting on your book collection behind you, Steve, but it's mostly records, isn't it?
Yeah, it's CDs.
LPs.
I've got a crate of vinyl in the corner.
If it doesn't have to be Detroit Lions questions. If you want Detroit hip hop questions put in there, Steve will answer for you. You could literally name a random artist and he will pull the LP off the shelf.
My specialist subjects for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire are hip hop, table tennis. What else? I don't know. But
Manchester United 1990 to 2008.
It was literally the other week when we were talking about Coolio. He's like, "Oh, here, two LPs." He just whipped right out. He's like, "I've got them. They're there. Anybody he has."
What does LP stand for? Anyway.
Long player.
Yeah, oh, okay. You just whipped out long player. Okay, I see. All good. Right. Other things that perhaps we can improve the team on going forward. I'm starting to think about the offensive side of the ball more than the defensive side of the ball, just because it's something which I think everyone's kind of gone with Game 5. Okay, we didn't score a point, but it was an off day. The offense has done fine up to this point. The defense is the thing to focus on. And then all we've got from that logic is, here's how we focus the defense. Here's how we make the defense better. This is what we need to do. This is where we need to go. And people are actually not really talking about whether there is anything to fix on offense. And even if there isn't anything to fix, we still need to try and improve here, right? So was Game 5 an indication that the wheels are slightly coming off with the offensive play calling, or really is it just a blip? And ignoring that question altogether, how do we get better on offense? There's always room for improvement.
Well, of course there is. And this offseason, you've got questions about 3 of your biggest playmakers on offense. DJ needs a contract, if you're going to give him one. DeAndre kind of needs paying, or you need to make a decision on him. If he spends most of this season hurt and you've got to get rid of him, or, he's still showing, you've got to sort that out as well. And then you've got the big question about Jared Goff and that cap hit next year. You've got some big decisions to make. It isn't just defense. Obviously, we need a lot more playmakers on defense, and it looks like we need some more trenches now there as well. But the offense, like I say, it doesn't matter how well it plays this year because it ain't going to be the same next year. And, it is really concerning because you've got to see, it's like the thing with Goff. You've got to weigh up how much you're paying him, how much you can save. What can you do with the money we've saved? Is it better putting a rookie in? I mean, it's over 20 million in savings if you cut him next year. It's a lot for a team like this who needs capital. We've only got 17.5 million in free agency money next year. That's it. You've got to start weighing this up because we need to make some additions to this team. So offense is going to have loads of questions. You've got to make the decision about how. You're going to keep him at right guard. You save another 10 million there. Is it worth redistributing that 10 million to other places in this team? All of a sudden, you lose a lot of this offense, and you've got to, get better again. That's why JMO's so critical. I think you're right. I think the offense has been found out a little bit in its predictability and what it does. And, we're not unpredictable enough. JMO immediately adds another layer to this offense. It's the deep threat we've never had. The guy who requires double coverage, and then you can't double cover TJ, you can't double cover Amon-Ra, or if you do, then your wide receiver 3 and 4 are going to have free shots down the field. He's the key to getting the offense up and running again, and that's why you trade the draft picks to get him. But, you've got a lot of positions, a lot of critical junctures on offense, which are up this year. So, yeah, we can't just focus on the defense. We've got to keep on scoring points. And more importantly, we've got to decide what we're going to do at quarterback. Do you wait one more year, or do you get that massive saving and spend it elsewhere?
I've got I've got some earth-shattering news from Dan Campbell's press conference. He expects Romeo Quara to play this year.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It better be more than a couple of weeks because he's got a 7 million cap saving next year, which becomes awful tempting to take.
I think the thing is, even if he came back in week 10, he's 16 weeks behind guys on the new playbook. He's got to come back up to fitness. Presumably, he's still not really doing much physical activity at the moment. It is hard for me to see how there's physically enough time for him to get himself right and performing at the level that a 7 million cap saving next year isn't going to look like the best option. And I say this as a guy that wears my Romeo Quara shirt with pride because of what he did for us in the last couple of years, but I really fear for his future, even in the best case scenario now.
You do. And I mean, that's what I mean. There's going to be a lot of these heart over head decisions this year. It's like Hal. I love Hal since what he did since he came to this team and how everyone kind of was like balking at the contract when he first came. He was injured first thing when he got here. His resurgence has been great. And I love him at right guard next to Penny Sewell. But, it comes to this off season and you've got to start thinking about it. You've got to start overruling how your heart feels on the issue. I want to keep him, but then I see the 10 million savings and I'm just like, he's injured. He's shown this year the injury bug is still there. It's not gone away and it probably won't go away. And, I need that money in my team elsewhere. If this season's taught me anything, it's that, we need to get better veterans in here. And to get better veterans here, you have to pay for them. So it's the same with Romeo Aquara again. We want nothing more than to have that guy back who started last season on fire, pairing with Hutch, pairing with Harris. What a rotation you've got going forward. But it comes to the point where the amount of time he's missed, the amount of money we're paying him, and you've got to start thinking with your head going, can we better distribute it elsewhere? And Goff, more of all. I love Goff's resurgence here. We've been very open about how he got thrown away by the Rams. He looked bereft of confidence. He looks happy now. He looks a lot happier. And for him as a person, I'm delighted he's enjoying his football again and he's helping us play well. But you've just got to you've got to be brutal. You do have to be, especially this year. I think you have to be brutal with some of these guys because we can't afford to keep them all and just go with so little money again. 17.5 million. We need 9 million for the 2 first-round picks on their own. What's that going to cover? It's going to cover nothing, and we're not going to get better. So it's going to be a tough off-season, I feel. And I hope that the front office are in agreement that, some tough, maybe harsh decisions have to be made for the betterment of this team.
I think it's one of the big frustrations about the defense is, it's like, what would it look like with Levi, with Romeo Aquara, with Josh Pascal? We just don't know. And that's what's so frustrating. It could just be a completely different unit. But, will we ever know? Probably not.
And looking aside to other problems as well, on offense specifically, the only 2 long-term pieces we have at wide receiver are Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. Obviously, we do have a little bit of backup with the fact that Josh Reynolds has had a good year, and I think he'd be a solid wide receiver too. Okay, so those are your 3 starters. But we have a little bit of depth down there with, I don't know, Tom Kennedy and Quintez Cephas if he makes the roster, but injured again. Kind of feels like with what we've been saying about injuries before, that maybe that's, coming towards the end of his time. Maybe if his injury streak continues, which is unfair, but again, the tough decisions that maybe need to be made. Josh Reynolds, I don't think, is anything more than seeing out his contract at the end of next year. So I think that there's a potential argument to have to look at wide receiver in this upcoming draft. I mean, we've seen other teams, it only takes one injury to completely decimate your side. What happens if J-Mo hasn't quite recovered from his injury? What happens if he injures himself at the start of next year? It completely decimates us. And, we're back to where we are now and the offense has looked okay. I'm not saying it's the end of our season if he goes down, but the security of taking a wide receiver maybe quite high in this draft, even though I want to go defense all the way down the board. Do I want to bring our defense up to 25th best if it means our offense regressing to mid-table, and then suddenly how are we winning games again? Like, at least with the offense the way it was in the first 3 or 4 games, we were putting points on the board and the defense has to make a play here or there, but if the offense regresses, it gets even harder.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I kind of, I have to agree with Drew on this one. You have to find value for some of your players, like you say with Reynolds. You save 3.25 million by cutting him next year. And I think you only give up 750 grand in dead. Are you confident that you can go into the draft and find a rookie like Amon-Ra in a third or fourth round who can come in, give you similar level production on a rookie contract, which will cost you a fraction of that? So again, you can make the saving and send it elsewhere. I think that's going to have to be a big thing for Holmes. He's going to have to get a very serious draft board up. Fine, well, I know he will, but he's going to have to think very long and hard about some of the choices he makes because we're not going to have enough picks to fix everything. So you have to look at some of these contracts, see can I do better, where can I save the most money, and hopefully help fix more problems free agency and do it that way. So yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a. I don't think it's going to be a bit brutal, especially if we're down at 5 or 6 wins and we've not really shown progression on the field. I think it's going to be a case of right, that's not good enough. There's a lot of you here on the chopping block, and I'm going to be brutal with it, and it's not good enough, and you're going to have to come back next year and be better. So it, yeah, everything is on the table next year. It's not just defense. Maybe you're looking in round one picks, you're looking at one particular side of the ball on your defense because you need to fix it, and maybe quarterback depending on what you do. But outside of that, it's a free for all, and it's all about the best value you can find.
I think and one of the disappointments is DJ Shark because like I think Chark has missed 2 games. In the Washington games, he had 4 targets and no reception. And I think he's had like about 7 catches for less than 100 yards, and that's just not great production. So it's hard to know where he fits into the scheme. I have been impressed with Josh Reynolds, and I hope we kind of keep hold of him. But you kind of have to think, and I've kind of got a question that I wanted to bring up when we start doing the Q&A about drafts. So I'll save it for then.
I mean, DJ's deal voids 5 days after the Super Bowl, doesn't it? So we're not on the hook for anything next year with him. So it was a 1-year flyer. It might not work. The one with Harris worked. This one didn't. But at least long term, it's not going to hit us financially, which is good. Because that's the last thing we need. No more dead cap for next year. Though we're going to have a lot.
I think the thing about Josh Reynolds is his future is inextricably linked to that of Goff's. The chemistry there is just so good that if you stick with Goff for another year, Reynolds is like a must keep because that connection is just so great. But if you decide to move on from Goff, take the 20 million saving, invest in a quarterback in the draft, well, suddenly Reynolds becomes much less appealing, and that cap saving becomes much more appealing. Especially if you can use the cap saving from the quarterback and use the cap saving from the wide receiver and go all in on something else.
I don't know. I feel like if Brad Holmes has got a list of, let's say, five wide receivers he's got lined up for his third round pick, and he knows that he will be able to get one of these guys, or there's a very good chance he will get one of them, and he can get rid of Reynolds, save the money, and still get this other guy. Even if Goff doesn't come or doesn't go, then if he feels reasonably confident he's going to get value for a receiver there, then he will get rid of him. I feel. I'm not sure they will be inextricably linked together. It's all about money here. We need to find some way of funneling as much money as possible into the kitty this year, because the last 2 years we've not really had it, and this year has shown that we need to be able to spend a little bit to get some better players here. We can't just keep going on the 1-year flyers hoping we land all the time. Eventually, you've got to try and start getting some cornerstones here as well as through the draft as well. So, any difficult decision that has to be made, if it makes enough money, because what is Reynolds? Wide receiver 3, 4?
In a perfect world, he'd be 4, but he's 3, I guess.
But I mean, you're paying him 4 million, so can you do better than that for less than that?
Probably not, to be honest. But
like I say, in an ideal world, he's 4, so you could get 2 guys maybe.
So Ash has pointed out quite rightly that we had a void year on Shark's deal. So it was a 1 year 10 million deal, but the cap hit was spread because of a void year into 4 million this year, 6 million next year. So we are on the hook for a sizable amount for him. But the deal voids anyway. We don't have him on the team. We just have a dead cap hit next year. Just thought I'd chuck that in there. Oh, 3 million against the cap next year. My bad. Is it 2 void years? No.
It is 2 void years.
But it all wraps up into the 1 year, so it'll be 6 million next year, 100%. Right. Are there anything else that we want to bring up about the Lions so far or in the future? Because we'll talk about this at length throughout the rest of the year and in the off-season. Is there anything pertinent that you guys want to bring up now?
No.
All right.
No.
Right. Let's move this on and talk about the listener questions. And as I said before, if you want to get it in, get your questions in, because this is going to be the remainder of the show. Please do. And we're going to start with the question from Junie first, who asks the panel, what are your favourite offensive and defensive formations and why? So I did post this a little bit earlier to give people time to think about it, and then I probably forgot about it. So I'm going to handily pass this off to either Ant or Steve to kick it off while I consider it a bit further. Steve, you volunteered. You go ahead.
My favourite defensive scheme is anything but what we're fucking doing at the moment. I mean, I think it's hard to get completely caught up with a scheme when you've got to try and fit the personnel to that scheme. So in terms of 4-3, 3-4, whether you're playing 2 safety shell, I don't think it really matters. It's about fitting the right scheme for the players that you've got. And it just seems to me like we're constantly putting square pegs in round holes. I think the kind of, Glenn's clearly scheming the blitz constantly to try and maybe take pressure off the secondary, but I just don't think it's working. So for me, I think we just need to have a far more balanced defense because it just feels like we're so predictable. We've been watching games together and we've been kind of calling, we've been calling the blitz because we can see it coming, and it's we've got to be smarter than that, because if you try and blitz too much, you just get killed over the top, and so many teams have done that to us. So for me, it's about, rather than fixating on a scheme and saying we've got to play this way, it's just about trying to do something that brings a bit of confusion to particularly on defense. But it feels like I said, we're just so predictable.
So I know Junie asked the question, and I know a lot about Junie's preferences and this for that. So I would say that I would give an honourable mention on offense to the triple option. There is, as old and outdated as it is, there is something beautiful about seeing the blocking schemes and everything when you run a good tight triple option threat. I love the designs. I love the execution of it all. It's like playing chess when you're doing that. So I like that from that point of view. On defense, I mean, people know me. I love my linebackers. I like to see a good 4-3 with my linebackers in there, having a nice wide variety. I like to have a commander on my defense. When you're in your 4-3, you generally have a commander back there who sort of runs it all, sees all. He's the field general. He gets it all going. Just personally, I like to see that. It might not be the way the NFL is going. It's probably going away from that. You might not be seeing it as much anymore, but it's just my personal preference. I love to see, I love to see a nice range of linebackers in there playing the way they are. In terms of offensive scheme, again, in ways I'm kind of with Steve. I don't mind what the scheme is so well as it fits the players who I've got on my team. I mean, again, is there one? I don't know if there is. I don't know if there's a specific offensive one I'm keen on. I mean, I'm more like a school of defense guy. I do like my defenders more. So yeah, the 4-3 with linebackers there, and I'll give the triple option a shout out.
Right. So for me on offense, I feel like I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I love I formation, power football, like just stick the running game down your throat sort of thing. There's something very quintessentially just like that's what real football is type of stuff. And maybe that makes you a dinosaur and a bit of a rah-rah guy. I don't care. There's something great about just seeing loads of blokes just running into each other. That's proper football. Um, and I mean, can I use victory formation? That's an offensive formation. But right, no, I said I
What's
formation.
that?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea, mate. Defensive side of the ball, it's a bit bittersweet for me because I really liked the 5-2 that we were running last year. I know it was a 3-4 as advertised, but it was a 5-2, and I actually think it fits our current players better than our current base formation. So I love a good 5-2. Just think it is aesthetically pleasing to watch. You have the same number of people on the line as the offensive line. It's then a a battle of wits, and whether you bring five or which four are you rushing, or are you going to only rush three and drop two from that five into coverage? There's a bit more disguise and a bit more to think about for an offense, I think.
I think next year, if we're going to do this, I would love. I've not seen it much, but I would love to see the 3-4 in Detroit next year if we can sort our damn tackle positions out. You've got one in McNeil. If we're going to go high in the draft, maybe get Jalen Carter or something. I don't know, and we get a good vet in there as well, like Rockers should be. Then I'd love to see Hutch and Harris and Aquara, if he's still etc., playing as outside linebackers, rushing them around the outside. I think that could be a system to work. Get your three up front, taking a lot of the blocking away, and then get these guys one-on-one and really bring the pressure in. I would really like to see that just as a personal thing. I know people will probably shut me down right away, say, Hutch, they shouldn't be playing as outside linebackers, but I feel like it might work better rather than trying to rush Hutch through the middle, get three guys who can actually do that job instead. Like I say, you've got one of them, you can fix it next year, then they get three up there.
The other thing I quite like is just a good simple dime formation of 4-1-6. Get another safety out there, or that I like three safety sets. Just it's pleasing to me. So I don't really have any rhyme or reason why. It's just I like it. Good coverage football.
I just like good football. As long as you're playing a scheme which fits your players, then I don't mind.
Right, we'll move this on to the next question, and it's from L. Judderman, and he says, who are your all-pro votes for the season so far? So I'll just take it through position by position. I'm going to load it up by PFF just so maybe I can make some suggestions to you guys if we are struggling for someone. So give me a second. Right, obviously we will start at quarterback. Who are you guys putting in your all-pro ballots for the first 6 weeks of football?
I mean, I got up early this morning before work at 6 a.m. and watched the Chiefs Bills. Yeah. Oh my word, Josh Allen, what a player! Like, just a stunning variety of plays that guy was making. Rushing wise, just awesome. And his arm is amazing. I thought Allen played the absolute game of his life against the Chiefs. I can't see how you could not vote for him as the best QB right now. And I love Mahomes, but Allen was awesome last night.
What he said.
You've come around then, Ant.
Oh, hang on. I've never, I'll give credit where it's due. I think, he's played exceptionally well this year and deserves an all-pro vote, so.
Right, so he is the number one player per PFF in the quarterback position. Second is Geno Smith, which is just amazing.
Hard pass.
Let's maybe keep this up, PFF and their grading, Jesus.
Yeah, I just thought it was.
Place.
Yes, indeed. Right. Obviously, if you've never listened to the show before, I'm a big Josh Allen fan, and I have been for the longest time. He's my guy, and he's doing the business as well. He is elevating what is already the best team in the league to new heights, and them losing to Miami was Miami being absolutely fantastic as well. So that was a flash in the pan. I think that they are really the team to beat in the league this season. Right, let's move this on, and if I could actually try and get this right on PFF, it'd be great. But we'll talk about now the running backs. Who is your All-Pro running back?
Chubb.
For me, Barkley, I think like Saquon's back, and it's great for the neutral. It's great for the league to see someone with Barkley's talent back. And just a bit of a shout out to the Patriots guy, that Ramondre Stevenson. I saw a couple of flashes from him last season that kind of made me stand up and take notice. But like he's looked good this season. He's looked really good, and he had another game this weekend.
Can't look past Chubb, really, in terms of All-Pro vote. Just he's the best running back in football. It's not close to me, at least on the eye test. Number 2 per PFF. Number 1 is Josh Jacobs. So there we go. Right. Wide receivers. How many do we put in? 2?
Shall we just do 1? Because we've got 22 players to do already. This will
Sure,
take forever.
let's do
if we
1.
Put more in.
Good.
Who are you thinking?
Bearing in mind he's playing on a pretty bad offense, like Cooper Kupp is just remarkable in how he makes the clutch plays. But I kind of fell in love with him a bit last year. I love watching Jamar Chase. I think he's just an awesome wide receiver, and I don't think he's quite got the yards that like Hill and Diggs have got this season, but he'd still be my go-to guy.
Might be controversial, but I've been massively impressed with Jalen Waddle this year, and I give it him. He's not getting the number of receptions the guys up there around him are getting, but his production. If he had sort of the same reception numbers as Cooper Kupp, he'd be blowing him out the water for production. I think he had a great rookie year last year. He's kept it going into this year, and they're on quarterback 3 and 4 or whatever in Miami. It's we've had 3 different guys throwing at him this year, and he's still making the plays. So I'd give it Jalen Waddle.
And I would go for, frustratingly, Justin Jefferson. Just think that he's been uncoverable for much of the year, and he's consistently performed for that team. One of the reasons why somehow they're 5-1. Okay, let's move on to the tight end position.
But mind you, Jeff Okudah pretty much marked him out of the game for 3 out of 4 quarters against the Lions.
It's true.
Just a note to those delivering hate in the YouTube chat on Jeff Okudah.
Right, tight end is going to be hard fought, I think. So who's your pick?
No, it's not hard fought. It's Travis Kelce. He is phenomenal.
I'm going with Dallas Goedert. I think he's a much better blocker. I think he's great to that Philly offense. It's playing really well this year. Kelce gets all the fancy touchdowns and everything, but when it comes to the nitty-gritty hard stuff that a tight end needs to do, I think Goedert can do it better. And he's a good receiving threat as well. It's just there's a lot of options on that team, so he doesn't get the love that Kelce does on that Chiefs team. I'll give it Goedert.
So I'm giving it to the other obvious option who isn't Kelce, which is Mark Andrews. Same number of yards as Kelce, 2 less touchdowns, but more yards per catch. I just think he's a more, I don't want to say he's a more impactful weapon because that's not true. I mean in terms of the blocking ability as well, I think he's a more well-rounded player and almost as good offensively as Kelce.
Andrews is like the classic red zone threat. But, Kelce can just make plays from anywhere on the field. Kelce can make a play. He gets open so well. And, yards after the catch as well. But, he's just a wild man. I love watching him.
Yeah, I think they're both great, to be honest. I love it. Right, let's move on to offensive line and the tackle positions. Any thoughts on left or right tackles?
Left. You kind of got to go Philly again here. I think Lane Johnson's the big guy there at the minute. I think he's been the standout guy. When you think of good left tackles, you think of Stanley. He's been out injured. Some of the other big names haven't been quite there. And that Philly offensive line's been dominant as anything. I don't think he's given up a sack or a hit on the season, if I remember rightly. So I'd give the left to Lane. And you know what? I'd give the right to Penne, because I think Penne is playing at an all-pro level this year. I think he's getting better as time goes on. He's having to do it next to a revolving door of guard changes in there as well. And in the situation, I think he's playing really well. So I'd give Lane Johnson and Penne.
I mean, I always enjoy watching Tristan Wirfs, because I mean, let's face it, Brady needs the protection, but Brady does seem to have been chased down a bit more this year. And I thought Rashawn Slater was having a real season until he got injured. But I'd like to think that we can put Penei Sewell in the conversation, despite he does have some lapses, but he's had some very dominant games, and the running game has looked so much better. I just wish they'd run more to his side.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Sewell as well. Slightly biased, but mainly because he has been very good this year. But left tackle's Andrew Thomas, and I don't think it's close. He's been an absolute revelation this year for the Giants. I can't speak highly enough about him. He's one of the reasons why Daniel Jones has become the average quarterback that they all thought he could be. Let's move on. Let's move on to the guard spots. Was that harsh?
That was just unexpected shade from you, Matt. You did it so well.
Okay, left and right guards, boys.
Onwenu's in there for New England. He's probably the best guard in the NFL at the minute. I'd put him in. And then maybe it was the really good Cleveland one.
Bitonio.
Yeah, I'd have Bitonio and Onwenu in there. I think, yeah. I've not really looked much about guards, but Onwenu, I know, has been an absolute monster.
I would say Quentin Nelson, again, keeping Matt Ryan upright is always a challenge, but I think Quentin Nelson's had a pretty good season for the Colts.
I would put in Vera Tucker at either spot. He can play either equally well. And Bitonio for me would be the other one. Comfortably, I just think they're great. Right centre, anyone?
It's got to be Ragnow.
Creed.
Yeah, it's got to be Creed. Ragnow's had a rough year, to be honest. By his standards.
It was kind of gutting in the draft before last that we had Ragnow, because not in the sense gutting. I love Frank, obviously, but Creed just looked amazing coming out of college. And if there's ever a time for you to not have a center and to have a draft come around, that was it. And the fact that the Packers passed on him makes it equally more laughable. So yeah, Creed's just been amazing.
Right. Let's move it on to the defensive side of the ball and interior defensive linemen. Let's just stick to one, shall we?
Yeah, it's got to be him, hasn't it? Aaron's still having a good year regardless.
Yeah, maybe Chris Jones for the Chiefs, although he did get away with an appalling trip against
that was
the Bills.
Worst. It was so obvious.
It was a terrible call by the refs.
Right in front of them as well. Could not see it. Dare I put Quinn and Williams here? I think he's up there.
I think Chris Jones and Aaron Donald are a cut above. This is all pros we're talking here. You could probably put him in for most improved.
Yeah, maybe so. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll go Chris Jones.
I know we're not used to having all pro players, so it's hard for us to dissect it a bit. But,
Right. Edge. Left edge, right edge. Or end, or whatever you want to call them. So for me, I won't put Parsons in this category, and I will rank him as a linebacker. But he can easily go in here. I'll just take the two best in the league, and they're Garrett and Crosby.
I'd say Max Crosby. He's a freak at the Raiders. That's what he does to them. And he doesn't exactly, before this season, he didn't exactly have a lot of help there either. He did it on his own, so it was great. Now he's got Chandler Jones there. It's just,
There's so many people
Party
in that
time
sort
for
of
him.
realm, though. Someone's just brought up Von Miller. He was a terror last night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's some really good edge play out there this year. I mean, to be honest, Bosa's been doing really well. You know, you'd probably put him in there as well. He's come back on fire this year. So that San Francisco front seven again looked really good.
Yeah. Again, wouldn't you put Von Miller as a linebacker?
I guess outside linebacker, yeah, probably.
But I mean, they're using Von Miller very sparingly, but they using him as like a real closer. And my God, it's working. He was awesome last night.
He has 37 less snaps than Myles Garrett this year. Has played one more game though. But yeah, okay. Let's have your linebackers. And I guess maybe should qualify outside linebacker and inside linebacker here. So outside linebacker.
Oh, do we ask? Can we just do linebackers?
Well, okay, fine. Parsons then.
Are we just one or?
Well, okay. Do you want? If you want two, I want to go outside and inside. If you want one, then you can have either.
Oh, so outside it's Parsons, inside Demario Davis. Not even close.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner has had a really good season, I think, for the Rams as well.
See, I was going to go Milano. I thought he was terrific last night, and I think he's been very solid for the Bills all the way through. I don't think anyone's really taken over massively. I have to admit, I've taken my eye off the ball with the Saints a little bit just because I think they're trash. So
Saints are trash, but they've got some good individual players on there.
Yeah,
so
fair.
they're coming up to their Super Bowl of avoiding the cap line again. So
All right, cornerbacks. I guess we have two here.
Will Harris? No, I'm joking.
Funny guy.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to put Tariq Woolen in this conversation because I think for a rookie year, he's had an outstanding year so far. And if he carries on the way he's going, this isn't like what's his face for the Cowgirls last year, who was getting all the dodgy interceptions. You know, Tariq Woolen's are genuine interceptions where he's, cutting routes and making plays. He looks legit this year, and it's upsetting because I watched that UTSA team a lot last season. And he looked amazing, and you just knew the transition to the NFL would be a lot easier for him than maybe some were thinking. And the draft grade, he should have gone higher than he did. This is not all with hindsight. Like I said, I loved watching him last year, and I think the impact he's had on a team that was expected to be going for the number one pick, I think he's made a lot of big plays on that team. I'm going to give Tariq Woolen a shout at All-Pro.
Yeah, I think Tariq Woolen's had 4 picks and 2 fumble recoveries already.
I think he forced one yesterday and all.
Yeah, I was going to say Patrick Surtain as well.
Yeah,
I think he's really taken a leap.
That's where I was going. So I was going to go Surtain and maybe Jalen Ramsey. I think he's been terrific again this year. But do you guys want to know who the top ranked player per PFF is in this category? Qualifier, you have to have played more than 26 snaps just to take out some of the players who are statistically not relevant. Who's the top ranked PFF cornerback this year?
No idea.
No idea.
Not the way they grade things.
It is a defensive rookie, and it is not Tariq Woolen.
Oh.
It's Jack Jones from New England.
Oh, wow.
90.5 PFF grade through 217 snaps. Now, if you have a look at some of the people who've played full-time snaps, they've played 336 for Chartavius Ward, 343 for Jalen Ramsey, 408 for Jamal Dean. So he's playing at the rate of half of the starter snaps, or like kind of rotational piece, but he's still well up there, and that's super impressive. Let's round out the defense with the safety room.
Antoine Winfield. Again, not even close.
Yeah, I was going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. I love watching Winfield Jr. He's just a constant threat, and you constantly think he's going to make a play because he's absolutely all over the middle of that field. I just love watching him play, and he's tackles with such a violence as well.
Buyers beware in fantasy when your quarterback's up against that Bucks secondary.
Yeah.
He ball hawks everything. So Winfield, without a doubt.
I'm struggling after Winfield, but I think, looking at the array of players available, that I would lean towards Derwin James, who I think has had a solid year so far.
I hate
Not
to say it, but there is a certain player in our division who should probably be in this discussion, as much as I hate to say it. And he plays in Chicago. Eddie Jackson.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Eddie
has had a good
Jackson
year.
has had a really good year in a defense that has been gutted of talent. And let's face it, the Bears have won the games they've won because of their defense getting takeaways and turnovers. And Eddie Jackson is a big part of that. So, as much as I hate to say it, he should probably be up there for an all-pro nod as well.
Otherwise, Jordan Poyer might be up there.
Nick Boyer's doing all right. Apparently, he had to drive 15 hours to the game yesterday. He couldn't fly because of a rib injury. So that's dedication.
Hang on a minute, because why is driving less impact on your injury than flying?
Because if you've got a rib injury, it affects your breathing when you're at altitude.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So he had to drive for like 15 hours to get wherever he did.
Imagine being so injured that you can't take your damaged ribs on a plane, but you can play 60 minutes of NFL.
That's crazy talk. Right, we should finish, I guess, with a little bit of special teams love. Punters and kickers, what are you thinking?
I wouldn't even know.
I mean, Justin Tucker actually missed one yesterday. I think that's the first one for, I don't know, is it 8 games or something? He's on a massive streak.
Yeah, he was on a huge streak.
But I think the Bengals kicker, is it Evan McPherson's pretty dead on?
I tell you what, the one who never gets any love is the Giants one. He seems quite clutch. Is it Gano? Gano's always really clutch.
Yeah, Gano's been fantastic. He's PFF's number 2, but Butker's number 1, and he's only played 2 games. So Gano and McLaughlin is number 3, and Justin Tucker's number 4. So you guys are picking out those guys pretty well. Punters, I think, is really hard.
I don't know. You just pick someone out of a hat.
I'm just looking at who's had the most attempts here.
Can't use Jack because he's not been used all season.
So here's the thing about how much Jack Fox has been used compared to other teams around the league. Jack Fox has punted the ball 16 times in 5 games. Tommy Townsend for the Kansas City Chiefs has been used 18 times.
Jesus.
When Fox didn't punt for a whole game, did he?
No. It's just nuts. I don't get it. Right. In depth, but hopefully you enjoyed the answers to your question there. We move on to Ash's related question, which should be a bit quicker, which is NFL award predictions. So we'll go quite quickly because we've discussed a lot of this already. Guys, your MVP so far?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, the unanimous Josh Allen. Offensive Player of the Year. I am going to venture out a suggestion here and say Stephon Diggs. I know similar team, but he's been a revelation, I think.
All right, Steve. He's got the Bills tinted glasses on at the minute, so.
Yeah, I mean, Diggs was great last night, and he gets double teamed so much, but I still think he's got the second highest yards behind Tyreek Hill this season.
With what's going on with the Browns, I think Chubb has to be in this as well because the quarterback situation is all over the show, and he is that offense for them. So I'm pretty sure he's leading Russia this year. I think he's leading Russia this year. He's on pace for something stupid, so I'd give it to Chubb.
Fair enough. All right. Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going Crosby. I know that team has not been good. They've lost a lot, but my God, he stood out on a bad team.
Yeah, that's a pretty good shout. Parsons as well at Dallas, as you just always. I don't think he's been like healthy. I think he's been carrying injuries, but he always looks a threat.
I think you have to add Chris Jones and that in as well.
Yeah.
And Chris Jones has been dominating, so
Ash wants to shout out Jalen Hurts for Offensive Player of the Year. He was my number 2 pick for MVP, but he wasn't in the Offensive Player of the Year standings for me, to be honest, because MVP is just best quarterback. That is what that award is. So, right, Coach of the Year so far.
well, it's got to be Sirianni, hasn't it?
It kind of, well, I mean, maybe you could go Giants, maybe the 5-1 Giants.
No, because what Sirianni took over, we were all saying he might be gone before Campbell, and that team just has got much better very quickly, and it looks, it looks quite infallible this year at the minute. So I would give it Sirianni.
I think that's like a 2-year stretch, though. If I'm giving it for the coach of the last 2 years, he's absolutely there. But if you have a look at preseason expectations for the Giants and the Eagles and where they both are, I would say that the Giants are outperforming expectations more than the Eagles are. I had the Eagles winning the NFC. I know that not everyone had that take, but I really did think the Eagles were that good. And they are still better than I thought they'd be. But they're right up there. I thought the Giants would be number 1 pick territory.
Yeah, but he's also assembled the best team, so.
I mean, again, I don't want to say anything controversial, but you got to say Kevin O'Connell's done a really good job at the Vikings, getting off to a 5-1 start, beating the Packers, and just making that team, which could have gone either way. I wouldn't say they look like playoff winners, but they certainly are looking like they've got a shot at winning the division, and that's a long way from where they were, and that's with Kirk Cousins as well.
Well,
Cousins has looked a different quarterback at times.
They're going to the Super Bowl if Matt has his way with it. So I mean, Jesus,
I didn't say I wanted it.
He'd be coach of the millennium if he got them there for that.
On our bet last week, is it not closer to what I said from last week to this week, with the Packers not making the playoffs and Dallas making the playoffs? I think that I'm in better stead than I was this time last week, even with Dallas losing yesterday.
No, Dallas are going to lose to us this week, so then you're part off of the bet's dead in the water. So
we live in hope. Comeback Player of the Year.
We've already said it, haven't we? Really?
Saquon.
Yeah,
has to be.
100%.
Right, this is one that I still have no name written down for, despite the fact that I've had 2 hours to think about it. Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
I do not have a sensible answer.
So the first name that popped to my head immediately was Olave. He's been really good at the Saints. I know he was out injured in the last one, but yeah, screw it. I'm going to say it, Chris Olave.
So the only other name that popped into my head was Jahan Dotson.
Breece Hall.
Breece Hall has done very well.
I think Olave's done well. The fact that Thomas ain't around and not playing much at the minute, it's kind of a lot's been put on him, and he is performing again with a dodgy quarterback situation. Every single week, it seems like it's changing.
Is it bad that I'm considering Bailey Zappi?
Yes.
You're entitled to your opinion, Matt.
Thanks.
We'll still love you for it.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson's looked pretty decent.
Someone in the chat might have the right answer here. Jamie Clark has just said the running back for Houston.
The old Florida guy.
Damian Pierce.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's close.
It's close. I think he's a great shout, though, because he's done great behind an offensive line that isn't up to much in Houston. Okay, that's Offensive Rookie of the Year. Last one, because I'm not doing executive, I don't know enough about it. Defensive Rookie of the Year, we might have touched on this already. But I did then throw Jack Jones as a spanner in the works, but I still am going Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, I think Woolen's a good shout.
I I think as the year progresses, you could consider Source or Kayvon with how they've started. I know Kayvon started injured, but he's had a good couple of games. I think as the year progresses, you could consider them, but so far, Woolen's my guy.
Well, I mean, anyone in the first round picks who is really doing well.
I mean, Source Gardner, as you know, he's looking like quite a prospect, and obviously played really well against the Packers.
Oh no. You know what? I'm gonna go different. I'm gonna say Devin Lloyd.
Good shout.
Devin Lloyd has looked great, and I'm pissed the Lions didn't take him.
Yeah, you were all aboard that train, weren't you?
He's
Right.
looked really good at Jacksonville.
So, L. Juddman then got on his next question, which is a brief look at the 2023 free agency class. So, I'm going to just list all of the guys above. I'm going to cut it off at $9 million. So, there's a fair few on this list, but let me just read it out just to see if there's any high priced guys that you kind of fancy. I know we probably can't afford them. I don't care. Orlando Brown Jr., Tom Brady, Deion Jones, J.J. Watt, Marcus Peters, Jack Conklin, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, Yannick Ngakwe, Jesse Bates, Levante David, Nelson Aguilar, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, Dalvin Tomlinson, Brady Roby, Sterling Shepard, Rodney Hudson, DJ Chark, Jadeveon Clowney, Jordan Poyer, Mitch Morse, Jimmy Ward, Matt Ioannidis, George Fant. That's your list above $9 million average per year. Any of those names calling to you?
Yeah.
It's
Thing
not
is,
calling to me.
the cap doesn't really allow for a lot of this. I mean, would I bring Levante David in? Maybe. I think he would be a massive upgrade on Alexander Zaloni. And he's older, so generally the deal hopefully shouldn't cost as much. But he's been in the league a long time. He might have a lot of wear and tear and might see Detroit as a place he can come and live out his days, in the league in comfort and not really do much for us. So
Where can I put myself out to pasture? Ford Field.
So, yeah, I'm not massively big on it. To be honest, like I say, I'd rather go through the trade market than free agency because trade guys are still on teams and worth something. Guys going to free agency invariably, a lot of them are not.
I mean, there's
Marcus
lots of
Peters
names.
I mean, Roquan Smith will be on there.
Roquan Smith is on there.
Roquan
Devin
Smith,
Bush.
I would, when he hits free agency, and he probably will at this rate because the Bears were stupid enough to let A-Rob go and not pay him. I'd at least make inquiries.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Peters is still only 29. Who else is there? Jesse Bates.
You got to think they'll get a deal done, surely.
He'll cost a small fortune as well.
Yeah. Lots of people in the chat saying TJ Edwards.
TJ Edwards. How old's he?
I don't know. Give me a second. That's TJ Edwards, isn't it? So he is 26.
Oh, the whippersnapper compared to us.
Got a lower cap hit at the moment than Nick Ballore. Fun times. I think I'm scraping the barrel here. You got an associated question though from Jamie Ant, who says, "Who would Ant trade for, and what would he give up?"
I mean, it depends. It depends who's available. I mean, you don't really know who is available. Who was the one we were talking about recently? Oh, Christ on a bike.
The cornerback who's now available.
No, I know Bryce Hall. I'd trade some day 3 picks for Bryce Hall. I would. No, there was the big one. Not Roquan Smith either. Oh God.
Position?
It was a defender. Once upon a time, it would have been Quinn and Williams, but that's out of the occasion now. Who did they say was getting let go? We're talking Panthers, aren't we? I'd go out and get Brian Burns. And I would give up TJ and a pick for him. I would give up.
TJ and what pick though? The pick is
Depends. I would give up the first round for him and associated picks with it. I would give the Rams pick and associated picks. And if I had to put TJ in, then so be it. But Burns, I would go out and get flat out straight away. Get Brian Burns, maintain your high pick in the draft, get a defensive tackle out of it, put him with Hutch. Defensive line's a hell of a lot better next year, and you've got someone with proven pedigree in this league. Whether it's feasible or not, I don't know. But like I've said with everything, with Brad Holmes, any player who's out there who can make this team better, who is on the trade market, at the very least, you should just give them a call and see what they want and see whether it's worth it. Because I am fully of the opinion that the draft alone will not fix this team. We need some talent on here, actual NFL caliber level talent on this team. If you can get it, then go get it. But Burns would be the one I'd be moving heaven and earth for at the minute.
What about at linebacker Devin Bush?
Devin,
he's a free agent.
Yeah,
he'll be a free agent after this year.
That's not a trade, though, is it? I guess.
No, it's not a trade. But no, I'd be all over Devin Bush. But it is a low risk, high reward play because he's not been fantastic in Pittsburgh. They declined his option. When you take a linebacker that high in the draft, you are pretty much saying that you are committing to him for 5 years. By not taking up the 5th year option, it's a big statement.
True. I just think we should be players. Don't let the losing record put you off. This team, we can't just fix all this through the draft. So be sensible, be prudent, see what deals out there.
Yeah. For me, out of all those free agents, I'd go for Jesse Bates, playing with Tracy Walker at safety. What a combo that would be.
All right, let's move on to Ash's question. You can delete one team in the league in favor of an expansion team coming in. Steve, who are you deleting from existence?
I'm deleting the Jacksonville Jaguars because I'm fed up of listening to people saying that the Jaguars are the UK's team. They're a complete waste of space. They're not even the best team in their state. And I hate their plastic UK fans.
Not even the second best team in their state. Yeah, yes, I was with you all the way with the Jags. It's just, it's worryingly bad, like similar to Detroit in terms of reasons, but just being bad for a long time. Don't really see the value in them. It's not a town which is relevant nationally as well. Everyone shits on Jacksonville as a place. So, that may be entirely unfair. Lots of people shit on Detroit, and Detroit's a great place to go. So, it maybe is just some national, we don't know what we're talking about thing. But, yeah, Jacksonville, I too am fed up with them being the UK team. They don't represent us. I don't want them here. I do want them to come every year as a thing. I kind of like the fact that they are building up a fan base because they come every year. But I don't want everyone thinking that we support them because we're British. It's other people getting it the wrong way. It's not really the Jags' fault. But yeah, anyway. Oh, and also, I really dislike their owner. I don't like Shanahan.
He's a wanker.
By that virtue, maybe we could just delete the Washington team. Just take out the worst owner in the league.
Yeah, the franchise is like a classic franchise, though, isn't it? In terms of the team's history. Whereas the Jaguars, just delete.
All right. Frog Crop asks the question, do we get 5 wins or more this year? Which is a really hard question to answer.
Okay, so so we're not going to beat the Cowboys or the Dolphins or the Packers. I think we'll win one of the 2 games against the Bears. So that's 2 wins. Giants, no. Bills, no. Vikings, no. Jags. maybe, mind you, I mean, the Jags have looked spicy at flashes. I don't think we're going to beat the Jags. The Jets, I don't see the Jets as a thing. I think they've been like, I know they've just beaten the Packers, but I just don't think they can keep on. I think we'll beat them. We'll beat the Panthers. Uh, do you know? I think we might get 5 wins just by beating the Packers in the last game when it doesn't mean anything, and we're playing against Jordan Love and the second string. So I'm saying we will get 5 wins. Yes.
Yeah, I'm putting us on 6 wins at the moment. That's where I have us at. I just think that it doesn't always go the way that you think it's going to go, and that goes for the losses as well as the wins. So Steve took us through the likely results, and I kind of just inclined to agree with almost all of them, but I just think we'll nick one of the losses. L. Juddman's put exactly the same point. We will pick up one totally unexpected win. I'm with that take. I just think it's as simple as that, really. I don't think you have to analyse that too much further.
I would rather like just beat the Bears once. Like if we lost twice to the Bears but finished up with 6 wins, I'd just be sick to my stomach. So I would rather like win 4 games and beat the Bears than win 6 games and get swept by the Bears. That would be fucking awful.
I think we'll beat them twice. I really do. I just don't think they're good. I don't think they're good enough to beat us. I know they've beaten 2 teams, but they haven't looked good doing it, and they've looked... The best they've looked is when they've lost, if that makes sense. They've won some really awful games.
I think we could not pick up that win against the Packers because thinking about it, maybe this time the Packers will have to play their full team in week 18.
Do you think their full team is good enough? The way they're playing right now?
Oh God, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
That Packers team is atrociously bad.
It's not atrociously bad. It's not great, but it's not atrociously bad. We're atrociously bad.
It's the worst offense in the league passing the ball over 20 yards. It's one of the worst teams in the league passing full stop. They're doing this even though Aaron Jones has the least stacked box in the NFL at running back. Like, there's just stuff that stacks up with them that just makes me think offensively they're going to struggle to score points at all for the rest of the year.
The Packers will get better, and I've not got the confidence that we will get better at the same rate. So I'm still confident that the Packers will reach the playoffs.
We had a returning fan from a previous stream who is a fan of another team, a New England Patriots fan after our loss against them, who was really lovely. And she's come back on and asked the question, do Lions fans really want to replace Dan Campbell? I think he needs to work on his play calling big time, but firing him I think would be a mistake. Do you think the fans actually want rid at this point, or do you think they're just on the turn but they're not there yet?
I think the idiots want Campbell fired. But like I just don't think you can fire the coaching staff in week 6 of like their second season. I just don't see anything to be gained by it. I think Campbell needs to sort himself out in terms of some of his in-game decisions. I think he needs to get a grip of the defense and, light a fire under Aaron Glenn. I think some of Ben Johnson's play calls have been a bit lazy, but I don't want to see anyone fired. Like not now. Like let's talk about it after week 18. But this is not the time to be talking about that.
No, there should be no discussion really about his job at the minute. I don't think you committed to him, and you've got to see this through. We gave Matt Patricia the best part of 3 seasons after he took over a team that was on the cusp of the playoffs, that was nearly there, and he subsequently dismantled it. Dan Campbell took on a job where the team was horrible. The cap situation was completely and utterly atrocious. And, he took over a team bereft of pretty much anything. So you've got to give him a little bit longer than 22 games to fix that mess. Brad Holmes cannot fix the cap and help him out that much, straight away. We're still paying Jamie Collins and Trey Flowers off. And, next year we're going to have to take some lumps with, some of the contracts on there, Big V's one, etc. So, you can't get rid of him just yet, because the situation is much different to what some of the other coaches have been taking over. When you are screwed for talent and screwed for money, it's going to take longer, quite frankly and simply. And that's why year 3 is big for them. Year 3 is like the Patricia year for them. You've got to show tangible progress going forward, because 3 years is enough to write your cap, enough to be able to, make a push. And you've got 3 drafts with lots of first round picks, and you should be able to inject enough talent in your team to start making tangible progress forward, but not now.
All right. Last question. We have been going some time. Thank you for all of your questions. It's been a really good chat. Jamie Clark asked this one a moment ago, and I thought it was good. We've actually asked this question before, and I think the premise of the question is perhaps not quite there, so I might change it. But he asks, what 3 things would you personally do next off-season to catapult the Lions into playoff contention? I'm going to remove playoff contention and just say much better than we are, because I'm not sure playoffs is a realistic expectation, even if you get 3 massive things right in this off-season. Maybe it is. If you have a look at the Jets and the Jags and what have you, maybe it is. One off-season is enough, but you got to catch fire, I think, to do that. And a realistic expectation would be to just be better than we are. So what 3 things would you do to make the Lions better?
I think the first thing I'd do, I'd be brutal with my cuts. No room for sentiment going into next year. Like I say, if you've got a contract and you are not earning your contract and it makes